Well, I've finally taken the plunge, donated a kidney, sleeping on the couch for the next 6 months, but I have done it. I have finally got myself a 5090, one of these bad boys. Before we throw that 5090 in though, I thought I'd take my existing setup with the 3090 Ti and run some benchmarks on that 3090 Ti to see how she performs against the 5090 when she's in. So let's get some benchmark tests done, bank those tests, and when I do get that 5090 put in, come back to another video and see how she's performing against the 3090. Let's get into it. So here we are now in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I'm going to run a few tests here, benchmarking the 3090 Ti with the 14900K and RAM setup and so on. Full specs of the current PC in the description down below. But what I want to do here is effectively run a suite of tests from a purely to benchmark and archive those so that I can, when they get the 5090 put in the next few weeks, and I've got that fully set up and configured, that I can come back and actually show how the 5090 is performing against the 3090 Ti specific to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. The reason for that is I know full well that the 5090 will considerably outperform the 3090, but it's more so for those people that don't necessarily want to upgrade or think that they actually need to upgrade at all. And you may find that we may get some surprises out of this. So let's have a look how this is going to go. The other thing I'll say is we're going to run this in triple screen setup. So I have a triple screen setup, as you know, and I want to take full advantage of triple screens. So it defeats the purpose, in my view, to run it on a single screen setup. So all of these tests will be done in triple screens. But with that, there is also some things that we can tweak. I want to tweak the two side screens to running in 2K and in 4K. So if you think about it, ultimately what we're going to end up here is I'm going to run default graphical settings. I'm not going to bother with low. We'll start with medium, then high, then ultra. We're going to run that with everything as its default position in terms of a custom setting default, with the exception of anisotropic filtering. I'll turn that off in all of them. And the reason for that is because I have it set at 16 times already in my NVIDIA control panel. So I've switched it off in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're going to set ourselves out at Boston Logan, which is a relatively dense airport area. Park ourselves on the ground at stand 60. And I'll set the weather to scattered cloud default and about midday, or as close as I can get it, but I'll run it at midday. And that'll be the standard for all the tests. Okay, so let's do that now. You've also noticed as well, I'm going to have in the top right hand side, I'm going to turn on the developer mode, which is on, as you can see right now, and then we can actually see how we are either CPU or GPU limited. We know full well that the 3090 Ti is definitely going to be GPU limited, but it'll be interesting to see what frame rates are coming out through this testing. The other test that we may do, time permitting, is actually turn the frame generation on, and that will be the FSR frame generation for this one to see what impact that does. But at the moment, I'm going to run this without any frame gen at all. Let's get into it and set this thing up. Okay, so here we are. As you can see, 4K on the front, DLSS super resolution, quality mode, frame gen is off, and my monitor rate is set at 100%, and that is a 60 Hertz TVs, so 60 frames effectively, running at 100% there. So global rendering quality is set at the default position of medium. The only thing I'm going to change is the anisotropic filtering. I'm going to turn that off. Okay, that is the only change. Everything else is set at default medium, as you can see as we scroll down through there. Okay, so the only other thing we'll look at is just to make sure that we've got the two sides on. Remember, we're running the first test. That's a 2K side, and that's a 2K side, both windowed. Come back, And let's now go and have a look at Boston. So I'm going to go over to 60, wherever I can find it. There it is there. That's the departure point. Nope, not 60. Yep. Parking 60, ramp GA medium. That's where we go. I want to make sure those flight conditions are right. So I'm going to set that time to as close to midday as I can get it. That'll do pretty close. We'll bring it up to midday. So from a weather point of view, we're going to run this as scattered cloud, as you can see there. Okay, so we're running at 12 o'clock, scattered cloud, Boston at 60. So that's the default setting, and I won't go into that again. So each of the tests will run through. So let's go now. Save that and start the flight. We're in a Cessna 172 Skyhawk. Down we go, and let's see what this has got to offer. We know full well with a triple screen we should be GPU limited. I'm expecting us to be GPU limited, and I'm expecting to be sub 30 FPS. Okay, so here we are. As you can see, we are limited by GPU, which is expected. We're barely getting 30 frames a second, so it's not bad at medium. It's probably flyable at that. But yeah, kind of peaking at 30. Now the 3090 Ti has 24 gig of memory on board, and we're currently using 10 of that. So from a memory point of view, significantly undercooked right now. It's certainly not working as hard, but it's definitely limited by the GPU. So the CPU is handling it fine, the 14900K, limited by the GPU. So let's run the same tests again. This time we're going to run with 4K sides to make that a triple 4K setup on the medium settings. Okay, now interestingly, I'm now running triple 4K. No movement in terms of the CPU. It's still GPU bottleneck, and I think we're going to see that as a constant theme all the way through this. But nothing has changed. So the difference between the 2K sides and the 4K triples, as far as I can see, nothing's changing. That's interesting. Also as well, my GPU memory has not moved. So let's now try and see what happens when we go to a default high position, noting that we'll turn anisotropic filtering off once again, and we'll come back in. Now we've got it set at the high settings. So remember, it's default high position, but I've got anisotropic filtering turned off. You can see immediately the drop in FPS. Now, bearing in mind as well, and one thing I forgot to mention is that I am running OBS in the background. Now, OBS is chewing about 10 FPS. So the ones that you're seeing on the screen here now, you can probably add another 10 FPS or thereabouts to it. So we're probably getting close to 30. If I was to turn off OBS, you would probably find I would get a few extra frames out of it. But I guess on a like-for-like basis, it's certainly dropped 10 frames, as you can see it settling out here. Now the GPU memory has also increased. It's now gone up to 12.37 gigabytes off the 24, so it's consuming about half. And as you can see, it's pretty well redlining through the GPU as the GPU utilization gets heavily taxed here. So we're now running 2K sides and 4K front. Let's see if that moves by changing from 2K to 4K on the sides with the high setting. Okay, we're back into it now. Now I'm running triple 4K screens with the high default setting, anisotropic filtering turned off as mentioned before. And as you can see, a slight difference, but not a lot. It's still running at circa 18, 19 frames per second. GPU memory utilization of the 24 is 12.48 down the bottom there, but obviously heavily taxing the 3090 Ti, stretching its legs and then some. This would probably be unplayable at this sort of resolution, and you wouldn't get a smooth flight at all. So as you can see, it's dropping down. It's probably actually running about 1 or 2 or even 3 frames a second on average lower than what it was when it was running 2K on the sides. The last test is to take this to where I would like the 5090 to be, hopefully, and that is to be triple 4K with everything on, ultra settings with the exception of anisotropic filtering, and that we will switch off, and let's see what happens then on an ultra setting. So here we are now. I have 2K on the sides, 4K on the front. Ultra preset, anisotropic filtering switched off. And as you can see, again, taxing that GPU. Now we've got frames dropping into the 13, 14. Interestingly, my GPU memory down the bottom there, if you have a look, you can see that's now jumped up to 15.68 gigabytes, 18.97 available for utilization there. So it's really starting to eat into the memory. But yeah, you know, this simply is not playable now on a 3090. Running triples, you just can't do it. One last test though is to obviously, and ultimately where we're going to get to is triple 4K with a 3090 Ti in ultra settings. And as we know, it's probably not going to move that much. I'm not expecting it to. It may drop a frame or two. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. Let's have a look at triple 4K now with the 3090 Ti in the ultra preset anisotropic filtering switched off. Okay, so here we are. We'll let this settle out, but we're getting, what, 13, 14 frames a second. 16 gigabytes now coming out of the GPU, as you can see down the bottom, but heavily taxed on the GPU. So a significant bottleneck, as would be expected when we're trying to throttle triple 4K running at the ultra settings for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. You know, this is a heavily taxing program here, and it's certainly from a 3090 Ti, which you remember only not too long ago was quite a powerful GPU. When it comes to this now, it's not. Now, the only way we can probably resurrect some of this is to look at frame generation. We can look at FSR frame generation as a single test, and I might have a look at that and turn on frame gen and just see if that makes any difference. In theory, we should be able to double that frame rate by turning on the frame gen. So here we are with frame generation. We're literally going to turn this to 2 times frame gen. Okay, so there it is there, 2 times frame gen, and we'll see where that's landed. Now with frame generation on, we're getting about 26, 27 frames per second. As I mentioned before, OBS is taking a bit of this, so if I was to turn OBS off, that's probably going to sit at about 35. But again, you know, it's an artificial frame being inserted between 2 frames, so I don't think it's going to be that smooth of an experience. But I'll just turn the aircraft on and just taxi around here very loosely. As you can see, it's quite a heavily dense airport at Boston, so we'll just taxi around here and just see if it's smooth or not. So we'll go back into cockpit mode, taxi around and just see how it looks and how it feels. So here we are now. We're running frame gen on, and as you can see, the jaggedness of it as it's turning, and that's with frame generation on. So, you know, that's just not a smooth experience at all. And even in cockpit cam, you can see the way it zooms back in, you know, extremely jagged. You know, that's not a playable experience. So, you know, it's not going to work with frame gen. Well, there you go. That was the 3090 Ti with the 14900K running across the 3 screens in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I'm really looking forward to getting that 5090 installed and hopefully bringing that bottleneck back to the CPU. I would expect so, given that I had to donate half a kidney to go and get that thing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Let's see what happens on the next run of tests when I benchmark the 5090. Be back within the next few weeks as we get that one installed, and we'll run exactly the same tests and compare that back to this 3090 Ti. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch you on the next one. Bye for now.